Hello! Welcome to Northworthy Sagas and Stories. As always, I am your host, Tyr, the son of Thorkel. This story begins with Odin, king of the gods, riding out on his 8-legged steed, his grey stallion, Sleipnir, whose name means slipper or slider, racing out across the far ocean, separating the Middle Earth of mortal men and women and giant land. And Odin arrived there and drew up before the great hall of a giant called Hrungnir, whose name means brawler. And straight away, Hrungnir the giant, having set eyes on the stranger, wished to know who it was, wearing a golden helmet, riding across sea and sky, and that he was possessed of a marvellously good horse. Odin replied casually that he'd wager his head that there was no finer horse to be found in the whole of Giantland. And with that, he began to depart. Hrungnir called after him, saying his horse was much longer paced, and it was called Gulfaxi, Golden Mane. But by then, Odin had galloped away. This made Hrungnir furious, and straight away he pursued the king of the gods, riding so hard and so fast that before he knew it, he'd ridden through the gates of Asgard, land of the gods, only coming to a stop outside Valhall, Hall of the Slain. And there, in the interests of courtesy and hospitality, the gods invited him inside for a drink. However, the giant had no manners. He barged his way inside and demanded that drink be brought to him. None of the gods were keen, and in the end it was only Freya who was brave enough to bring the beakers that were normally reserved for Thor, god of thunder. And so Hrungnir drank and drank, and he became inebriated, and very soon his drunken boasting led him to say that he was quite impressed with the mead hall of Valhall. In fact, he'd take it away with him back home to Giantland, but not before he'd buried Asgard and killed all the gods, all except Freya and Sif, Thor's wife with the golden hair. Those two he'd take back with him. And more than that, he was going to drink all of the Aesir's ale. Now the gods quickly grew tired of this, and they invoked the name of Thor. And a moment later there was a flash of lightning and a roll of thunder outside, and the sound of chariot wheels grinding upon the ground. And then Thor, the red-haired, red-bearded thunderer, strode inside, demanding to know why a cunning giant was being shown hospitality. Hrungnir replied, saying that Odin himself had offered the invitation. "Ha! It was unwise of you to accept that," said Thor. "Well," said Hrungnir, "it's a shame that I left my shield and my whetstone at home, and it would bring you no honour to slay me, Thor, unarmed as I am. Therefore, I'll challenge you to a duel at Griotsunagada, Stone Town walls, if you've got the nerve." Now Thor had never been challenged to a trial by combat, and he was eager not to pass up the opportunity. And as for Hrungnir, well, when he returned to Giantland, all that realm was abuzz with talk about nothing else. In fact, the giants considered that the reputation of the whole of their kind rested on the outcome of the match. And so, they prepared a retainer for Hrungnir, a man made of clay, who was called Mocker Calfey, Mist Calf, and he was 9 leagues high and 3 across, below the shoulders, under the arms. And because nothing else would supply a heart big enough, they used the heart of a mare and put that inside him. Now when the day came, Mocker Calfey stood, trembling and quaking with fear, beside his master Hrungnir at the appointed place, Stowtown Walls, where there was a plain with a great mountain range in the distance. And first of all, Thialfi, Thor's retainer, came to Hrungnir. Now Thialfi, well, he was possessed of great speed. He entered Thor's service during the affair when Thor visited Utgard in the story of the illusions told by Njal Sigmundsson. If you haven't heard it, please click on. Now Thialfi went to Hrungnir and said, "Listen, giant, you've got your shield in front of you and your whetstone ready there over your shoulder. But Thor knows what you're doing. He's tunnelling underground and is going to come at you from below." So, Hrungnir responded by putting his shield on the ground and standing on top of it. But then he heard a rumbling in the distance. He looked up and he saw lightning splitting the air. And then, a long way away, travelling at a tremendous rate, was Thor in his chariot, pulled by Gaptooth and Cracktooth, the 2 goats. And Thor hurled Mjolnir, his hammer. Hrungnir, well, he reacted to this by throwing his whetstone with both hands, and they collided in mid-air. The whetstone, it broke in 2. One half fell to the ground, and from that, all whetstones have been derived ever since. But the other half carried on, hit Thor in the head, buried itself in his skull. Thor fell forwards, face down. But Mjolnir, well, the hammer shattered Hrungnir's stone skull. So his decapitated body fell straight down with his leg pinning Thor by the neck. And when they'd seen what happened, the gods came, and one by one they tried to lift the giant's leg off of Thor. But the only one who could do it was Thor's son Magni. Even though he was only 3 years old, he picked up the leg and threw it away. Helping his father up, he said, "It's a terrible shame, father, that I arrived so late. I think if I'd seen that brute myself, I'd have knocked him into hell with my fist." His father smiled and told Magni he'd grow up to be a powerful person. And now that the thunderclouds had dispersed and the sky, the sanctuary of the hawks who soar upon the wind, had cleared, Thor declared that the prize of the contest, Hrungnir's horse, Gulfaxi, would belong to his son, to Magni, and it would be Magni's horse, Golden Mane. But Odin, he didn't like the sound of this. He complained and said that Thor should have shown respect to his father rather than to the son of a giantess. Nevertheless, that's how matters stood, and Thor went home, back to Thrudvang, the power fields, to his hall Bilskirnir, which means lightning. But he found there that the pain in his head was almost too much to bear, so he called for Groa, the sorceress, At once she began to work her spells, and Thor felt the whetstone shard working its way loose, and the pain began to ease. And so, to show his gratitude, he wanted to repay her and bring her happiness. And he knew she hadn't seen her husband for a long while, or Vandil the Bold, or Erendil in the Old English tongue, a name which means morning star. Thor had brought him south across the wide river Elivaga in the freezing cold, carrying him in a basket on his back. Although Orvandil's toe had been poking out and frozen solid, so Thor had broken it off, set it in the sky, where it shines under the name Orvandil's toe. And Grower, well, she was so pleased at this good news that she forgot all her spells, and she left with no thought in her head but to rejoin her husband. And so the whetstone piece remained firmly lodged in Thor's head. And even now, it's forbidden for ordinary folk to throw whetstones across a room, because whenever that happens, the shard in Thor's skull stirs and causes him great discomfort. But for now, that's the end of the story of the challenge of Hrungnir, and how it was met by Thor, son of Odin. I hope you enjoyed it, and please carry on watching, as always, and don't forget to click on to our other Thor stories here at Northworthy Sagas. And, last hail! Good health to you all.